Hey, business building warrior, welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio. I'm the introductory host today, but not the main content guy. We've got two favorite guests coming back today. Of course, I'm talking about Brian and Robin Joy Olson. They're going to be doing the bulk of the content today, but I've got the announcements section of the episode. Here's what they're going to cover. When I turn the microphone over to the Olsons, they're going to talk about the bare basic tools that you need to run a successful Amazon business using the strategies that we teach around here. They're going to talk, of course, about Keepa. You hear us talk about it all the time. I'm not sure if they mention it on today's episode or not, but go listen to episode number 369 if you want a bit more background on Keepa and why we're so excited about that tool. But they talk about the other basic tools. Which tools are you going to need? When do you need them? In what order do you buy them? It's a great episode that I can't believe we've never done before. But on today's Coach's Corner, that's what they're going to hit. So enjoy that in just a moment. But before that, I want to make sure and remind you that upcoming July 6th through 8th event, The Proven Conference, get over to theprovenconference.com and check out the details. We are posting, as I'm recording this, we are just days away from posting the full event detail page that has all the ticket prices and all of the breakout sessions. Several sessions happening this year that are things that we've never taught before. This isn't any rehashed information. You're going to be coming to an event that not only is packed full of great fellow business building warriors from this community, hundreds of them from all over the world are coming in, but we're going to be teaching more new content at this conference than we've ever taught at any of the past conferences. This is our 11th time we've done this event, making it one of the longest running e-commerce training conferences in the world of Amazon e-commerce. But this year, we're going to have several sessions. Here's just a little taste before we turn it over to the Olsons. Off the top of my head, we're going to be talking about the bot strategy that we've been getting so excited about around here, how to source online using bots and scraping retail websites looking for great opportunities. It's working so great for the team that's tested this out. You're going to love getting exposed to that. We're going to help you launch a prep center. If that's something that you want to do, you can get paid well. It can be a very profitable thing for you to launch your own prep center. It's a high in demand business. If you've seen our list at prepcenternetwork.com, virtually every time we add a new prep center in, they get a lot of new business because there's a lot of demand around the world and in our own US-based community for people who can manage inventory for other people. So if we're going to do that, we're going to talk about that. We've got some print on demand training for you. You know how much we always warn you around here about being extremely cautious as a new seller about getting into private label. Well, we've dialed in a very low risk method that you can test and have your own print on demand objects and items that will tell you how to set up the listing. We're going to be teaching all of that at the conference. Now, we can, of course, cover everything you need in the time that we'll have there, but we're going to give you a great introduction, enough that you could go try this out on your own for sure. So print on demand and so many other strategies that we haven't talked about before in this community. We're going to be talking about them at this conference. So the content's going to be great. The community that's going to be there is going to be fantastic. See the full list. We've got over 40 breakout sessions. I'm not going to give them all to you right now. You can go see the full list at theprovenconference.com. Get over there, get the details on the event. If you have questions, feel free to contact us. Jump into our free Facebook group. There's a link at silentjimdotcom to our group. You can jump in and ask your questions about the event there as well. Happy to help you out. But let's jump over and get into the main content for today. Let's hang out with Brian and Robin Joy Olson. You're going to enjoy this. It's a great breakdown of some of the great tools. And by the way, all the tools they're going to mention today are listed out for you, along with, in most cases, great discount links that we've arranged for you in the event that you do end up using some of those tools. So look for the links. And we always appreciate you using our affiliate link. That's puts a few dollars in the bank for us for this free program. If you use our affiliate link when you buy some of these tools, we don't endorse or recommend anything unless it's something we truly stand behind, believe in, and use ourselves at a wide level. So we've got about 100 people on our team. Any tool we talk about, any service we endorse, A lot of us are using it and successfully using it. So that's the stuff we bring to you. We don't just take on any sponsor. We have to actually prove that the stuff works. So these tools we're talking about today, we actually use these in our own businesses. We use them in our students' businesses when we coach them. These are tools that we stand behind. So enjoy this conversation with Brian and Robin. Let's turn the microphone over to them.
Hello, Brian.
Hello, Robin. Welcome back to Silent Sales Machine Radio.
Hello, everyone.
We are your hosts.
I'm Robin Joy.
I'm Brian Olson, and this is Coach's Corner. Some good topics for you this week. Really excited about some of this stuff.
Yeah.
We are in the coaching program, as you know, as coaches, and we get new coaching clients frequently, right?
Yes.
The coaching program is a
we love that.
pretty great tool and or service, I should say. And we get folks who come into the program at all different levels, right? There's some people who don't even have a seller account yet, to people who are already doing $40,000 or $50,000 a month and they're looking to improve their business on some level.
Right. Or add another strategy maybe from what they were using.
Yeah, add another one. Yeah, we get some folks who come in with private label and they're looking to add REPLENS. We get some people who are already doing REPLENS and they want to do some other strategies. But one thing is almost all these clients have one thing in common when they're first getting started, and that is the tools that they use. What is that one must-have tool for the REPLENS business?
What do I need in order to get started? And we've heard Jim Cockham talk about this a lot on podcasts. What I bet everybody who's listening, if you've heard any podcasts before, know what that tool is. What is it, Brian?
Rhymes with MEPA. Keepa. I think it's Keepa.
I think it's Keepa.
Keepa's that one tool.
Yeah.
If we had to do this business with only one tool, it would absolutely, hands down, be Keepa.
And could you do this business with only one tool, Brian?
I could do this business. I can do this business with one tool.
And I can name that too.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, exactly. So that one tool being Keepa. Now, we'll get into the sort of the features and some of the features and benefits of Keepa here in a minute, but is it possible, I'm just going to ask this question, if I didn't want to invest in Keepa, could I still do this business?
Well, I'm not going to say you couldn't. It would be much more difficult. In order to have the information that Keepa gives you, the historical information, you would have to build that data over time yourself. Keepa gathers it for you and puts it right in front of you, the history of what that ASIN has been doing, every one of those listings individually, without you having to, kind of trade on paper, so to speak, until you get that information.
Well, spell that out for me a little bit. Let's say that I did want to skip over Keepa to start out with and do it all myself. What does that look like?
Well, I think it would have to look something like taking some ASINs and watching them all day, hour by hour, putting down data points. How much did they sell for? When did they sell? What ASINs? What competitors are running out of stock, and when is their stock moving? When is the price moving? You'd have to have a whole bunch of data points put together to get the information that we get with one look at Keepa on a listing.
Okay, but I'm stubborn. I still think I can do this.
Okay.
I could go look at a listing and see if I'm summarizing this correctly. I could go and look at a product listing on Amazon, and I could start taking some notes. I could find out how many offers were on that listing, and what their offer prices were, and I would note all that information down. And then I might look in the product details section of that ASIN or that listing and find the ASIN, the sales rank, if it has one, and maybe a UPC code or other stuff that's maybe item specific. But I could just write all that information down,
right?
Come back multiple times per day and update that data. In other words, even like which seller was in the buy box when I looked at 9 o'clock in the morning versus which seller was in the buy box when I looked at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
That's right. That's right.
I
You
could go
do
and
that.
track all that
You
information.
could track
right?
all that information.
Okay. And I could track that for days, weeks, months.
Yes, you probably need at least a minimum of 90 days of information in order to, make a decision, I would think. And you would also need to do that for every listing that you're interested in. By the time you get to the end of that, then you'd have to decide whether all that work was worth it or not.
Okay.
Okay, so are you convinced yet?
No, I'm actually not. Let's talk this through a little bit more. Let's say that I'm tracking, like initially I'm only tracking one ASIN, and then I start building these listings that I'm interested in following. And by the end of 90 days, I've got a list of, let's say, 30 ASINs that I'm tracking.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have 90 days of data on them just yet.
Okay.
Right? Because I picked up some as I was going.
All right. Mm-hmm.
How long is it going to take me to, this is total guess, right? We're just making some numbers up here, but how long do you think it might take me to track information on 30 ASINs each day?
Oh, gosh. Well, it depends on how many times a day you want to track that.
Mm-hmm.
And how much information you want to get. I mean, you could do it once a day and probably get enough information.
Mm-hmm.
You could, and then do that for 90 days on each ASIN. So to do that for 30 ASINs, I mean, you're talking about, I don't know, 10 minutes per ASIN.
Ish. Yeah. So let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's start out with 10 minutes per ASIN. 30 ASINs is 300 minutes. That's 5 hours a day of tracking, right? Of effort to go and do that. 5 hours a day times 30 days a month, roughly. We're looking at 150 hours. 150 hours. So now how much does Keepa cost if we're like, you know what, I don't have 150 hours to put into this business over the course of a month?
Well, it's paid in euros, but it is around $20 a month.
I think it's like 25.
Maybe 25
So let's
now.
call it $25.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So $25 for the month. So if I took that $25 and divided it by how many hours did I just say a minute ago?
500?
Was it 500 or 150? I think it was 150.
150. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you quickly
multiplied quickly in my mind.
Yeah, and you can see how you're making yourself worth, pennies per hour by doing this work compared to subscribing to a service like Keepa, which now you can do by the month. You don't have to pay annually, so pay as you go. Right? I don't think there's a free trial on Keepa, so you're committed on the day that you sign up. But all of a sudden, we're getting at least 150 hours per month back for our business,
and more information than you could grab on your own.
Yeah.
Although that brings me to the next question, Brian, which is, do I need to know everything about Keepa before I can get started? I mean, it's a pretty complicated tool and there's a lot there. And if I buy it and I don't have time to learn it, then what good is it doing me?
Well, it's a great point. And let's not forget that Keepa, just like every other software /tool/service that's out there these days, is constantly improving, right? If you're not improving, you're dying. And with Keepa, that holds true. Like it seems almost every week or at least every month, there's a new set of features to maybe include new data, new charts, new data points to look at. A ton of that in there. So, I lost track of where I was going with that.
You got to learn new software.
Oh, you got to learn new software. Yeah, I still lost it.
Okay, so my question was, do I have to know everything about Keepa? How about those hours that I have to spend to learn Keepa?
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. Thanks for catching me up. So no, I don't think so because eventually, the longer you use the tool, you'll learn more and more about it. But to get started, you don't have to be an expert.
You do not.
You really are really interested in just two things, right?
Right.
What are those two things?
Velocity and price history.
And price history. Yeah. So the sales range, the price history range of that ASIN.
Yeah.
And the sales velocity of that ASIN.
Right. That tells me, one, whether it's selling fast enough for me to get to look at my Band-Aid. I've cut my finger. Whether I have enough velocity to be able to sell that item within the 30 to 45 days that I like to sell it in REPLENS. Does it sell fast enough for me to do that? And two, am I going to make a profit? Do I have the potential to make any money if I send in items on that listing.
Okay.
Those are the two things I need to get started. So again, we need one tool to get started, and we only need a couple of pieces of information from that to get started.
Okay, well, let me challenge you just for a second on that. And this is the unscripted part of the podcast. So,
you're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah, Keepa doesn't actually tell us whether we're going to make any money.
It does not.
Right. So we actually need maybe one other tool in order to make a decision on whether we're going to potentially test something, right?
We need to know our cost.
We need to know our cost, yep.
And we need to know what it's been selling at,
yep.
To see if we have, to make a determination of whether we can make a profit.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, so I don't think we need another tool to make that decision, but I think our next tool might be one that makes that decision even faster.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Does Keepa tell you what your fees are? How much money that you could potentially make?
It tells you what your fulfillment fee is, but it doesn't tell you what your referral fee is.
Okay, well, we can do the math on the referral fee. In most cases,
yep.
15% of the sales price. That varies depending on the price and the category. But yeah, okay, so if Keepa does tell us the fulfillment fee, and we can do math on the sales price to figure out the other part of the fees, then you're right. We don't need another tool for that. Okay,
right.
So let's just stop with Keepa right now.
Okay. Can I start my Amazon REPLENS business with just one tool?
Well,
Keepa.
I think we answered that question.
I think we
yes,
did.
you can.
Yes, you absolutely can. And furthermore, many people do.
And many people don't, as you'll notice by some people offering things for sale at ridiculously low prices.
This is true.
But Keepa, besides those fundamentals we were talking about, showing you the sales velocity and the sales price range of that item, does so much more than that.
It does. But I have to learn that over time. I can get in my car and drive a block from my house and not have to know a whole lot about a car. But when I start wanting to get on the highway and drive faster, or when I need the oil change, I need to build on that and learn some more about my car. If I need to turn the windshield wipers on, it's raining, I need to learn some more about the car. So I can get started, but then I'll need to learn more about my tool. Great
point. So for the 2 or 3 things that we need to know, those data points, sales velocity and sales price history and the range of that is like getting in the car, putting it in drive, going to work, right? Or going down the street to visit a friend. I haven't had to figure out how to use cruise control.
Right.
And by the way, like the car analogy is awesome because it does remind me of Keepa. Like every new generation of a vehicle that comes out has more bells and whistles than the previous one, right? So now we have to figure out, if we want to, how to use the cruise control, the adaptive speed control, the lane assist, all the fancy ways the car can drive itself these days. You have to actually kind of study up on these things, especially if you're getting in a Tesla, right? People will say, like, go watch the video on how to drive a Tesla.
And if you're going to take yes, that's true. We tried that once, didn't we?
Yes. Yeah.
It was a learning experience for sure. And we've been driving for years, more years than I want to admit.
Right. But the point is, we don't have to know how to use all that stuff. We don't have to know how to change the oil or tune up the car or even which shop to take it to in order to get started. Right. We know we get in, we push the start button or put the key in, and we drive a few blocks and we've gotten from point A to point B. Exactly.
We're going to keep our risk low because we're not going very far. We're not going to drive in the dark. We're not going to drive in the rain. We're not going to drive in the snow or ice. We're going to drive on a clear, sunny day. We're going to go a couple of blocks to our friend's house. We're not going to have to parallel park, none of that. And we can get from one place to another. And the beginning is really the beginning. That's where you start.
Right. And the 2 things that we're talking about with Keepa that you need to know in order to get from point A to point B is really the sales price history and the sales velocity.
That's right.
Right?
You really can start there.
So we can do a lot with just those 2 things.
A lot.
Okay. So I know it comes with a slew of other features.
It does.
Including one of my favorites called the Premium Data Access Tool.
Yes.
And this allows us to extract data strategically out of Keepa to target specific types of listings on Amazon.
Okay, so this is what now we're going to start learning how to get on the highway and drive a little faster.
Yeah, I'm going to say this isn't
after we've gotten some experience.
An advanced topic, and we just want to talk about a couple of them. Once you know how to basically drive a Tesla, you can put it in, cruise control mode and put your feet up and do all. No, you can't do any of that stuff.
Not do that. No, that would be high risk. We want to keep our risk low.
Right, but we can use the tool to help us target some other specific types of listings that could be beneficial for us, right? Okay,
Yes.
You want to talk about a couple of those?
Well, yeah, I know that one of your favorites is listings with no buy box.
Oh yeah, buy box. We hear buy box all the time, right?
Buy box.
We see it.
What about the buy box?
We see it posted in the community. We talk to each other. What's the buy box? Who's got the buy box? Are they sharing the buy box?
And it's not that the buy box isn't a very good indicator of a lot of things.
Yeah.
Which is why we use it a lot in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
what if it doesn't have one? Do we just run away?
Yeah. So what if it doesn't have a buy box? Well, I'll
explain what the buy box is. Make sure we understand.
Great. Yeah. When we're on a listing on Amazon, we pulled up, I don't know, a razor blades listing, and we are interested in buying it. Normally, in the upper right-hand corner of that listing are two boxes. One of them, and one's orange and the other one's a little less orange, a little more yellow. One of them is buy now. Yes. So if you have an Amazon Prime account, you can buy with one click. That buy now is the first part of the buy box. The second one, I think, is the yellow button. This is the one that says add to cart. And so when you add it to cart in one click, basically you've either added it to your cart or in one click, you've made the purchase.
Right.
So some listings don't have that little section in the upper right-hand corner.
What do you do then?
Well, I mean, that section of the page still exists, but there's a different button up there. What does that button say?
Something about see all your buying options.
See all buying options. Yeah. See all buying options. Now let's not get into the why we see that versus why we see a buy box sometimes. But when we see the see all buying options option box,
option of options that is in the box of options.
Yeah, something like that. Then we actually have to click on that and see all the offers that are existing for that particular item.
And we just have to pick one of those offers.
We have to pick one of those offers to put in our cart. Yeah, we still can't buy it now from there, but we can put it in our cart from there.
Okay, so we know what a buy box.
So when we see the option for see all my buying options, that's no buy box.
Right.
Okay, so now that I've completely confused everyone about what a buy box and no buy box is, why would we be interested in these listings that have no buy box?
Because many third-party sellers run away from listings that don't have a buy box.
Oh, we have been those third-party sellers.
Oh, yeah, we have.
Right?
Absolutely.
So is it a secondhand story? I can't remember who told it. But
story? You have a story?
I know.
Shocking.
Imagine me. The story went something like this. It was someone posting a question like, hey, I was on this listing and it was $30 and now the buy box is gone and I can't sell my inventory. And the reply was, yeah, a lot of times when the buy box goes away, people, third-party sellers, will panic and lower their price because they know that in some cases, when the buy box gets removed, it really stunts the sales of that particular listing. And it can.
It can.
Really, like on some listings, you'll see when the buy box goes away, you can see 50 to 80% drop in sales velocity.
But listen to what you just said.
Yeah.
You also might see 50 to 80% loss in competitors. So you get more of the sales than you were getting before. So it can cancel itself out.
This is true. And sometimes the buy box goes away because of the amount of just craziness going on a listing. So
it might come back.
Yeah, it could very well. A lot of times you'll see the buy box disappear when there's nobody with a viable offer. And by viable, it could mean like the price is acceptable to Amazon and the shipping time is acceptable to Amazon. right? It could be gone. And yeah, I said we weren't going to do it, but I'm doing it.
You said we weren't going to get in the weeds on that. All right.
The buy box could be gone because the quality of the listing isn't very good, right? Sometimes we see those listings that were part of there used to be a variation and now they're flying solo. And so they're missing a bunch of information about the product. And so Amazon says the quality of the listing is not good. We're going to take the buy box off. The price could be too high. There are a number of reasons, but not important for this discussion.
Okay, so let's go back to why we want to find ASINs. Why we might want to find ASINs that don't have a buy box.
So, because the story, which I cut myself off from, was that when the buy box disappears, then we sometimes want to go ahead and, you know what, that could be increasing my risk.
Yeah.
And if we're trying to stay in this low, high space, low risk, low investment, high potential for profit or success, then I want to potentially one of the ways I keep my risk low is by getting out of that listing.
Possibly.
Yeah.
But may I introduce a concept that I'm just coming up with?
Mm-hmm.
Your comparative risk changes once you spread that risk over several ASINs. If that one ASIN is a high percentage of your ASINs, then yeah, you need to keep your risk low and not fool around with things like that. But if it's a very small, if one ASIN, you have hundreds of ASINs and that's only one, then you can afford a little bit more risk on individual ASINs. Still just a little bit more risk.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
so my
true.
comparative risk is still low.
Yeah.
As long as I've spread before.
Okay.
Okay.
You may introduce that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Are you buying what I'm selling?
Yeah. I think it's an interesting concept because number one, it means I don't have to panic.
Right.
Right. I don't have to panic and tank the price and just wait, hopefully, cross my fingers and I can sell out of this thing. I can actually take my time and evaluate this as long as I've got time. Now, if this is one of two ASINs, then I'm probably panicking a little bit.
Right.
But if it's one of 200 ASINs, then I've got some time. I can see how this might play out. Right.
Exactly.
Okay. And not only do I not need to panic, but I might explore that situation for further opportunity. Right.
Yes. Yes.
Right. And that's what this whole strategy is.
Kind of what Jim tells us a lot of times, okay, so somebody take the price and, people are going crazy. Let them play their little party down there. You just sit still and they'll go away in a minute. They either can't do math or they have panicked for some reason or another. And you don't need to respond to that necessarily.
Yeah.
If you've spread your risk.
Okay. So now that we've totally beaten up the whole buy box thing, now we could use a tool like Keepa to help us find listings that don't have a buy box that we can potentially exploit.
Correct.
Because
not all of them, but some of them.
Because why? The buy box wasn't one of those two things that we were talking about, those key pieces of information, the key data points that Keepa gives us, right? Remember, we were looking for sales velocity and sales price range. Right? We didn't care whether it had a buy box or not. No. Because a listing that doesn't have a buy box can still sell very well. Yes.
I have heard a lot of people say, well, the customer has to make one more click and it's that much harder for them to get the sale. I agree with that. That is true. They have to make one more click and make one more decision before they can buy that. Here's what I want to say. I am not as concerned with how the customer goes through the buying process as I am that the customer goes through the buying process.
Okay.
If it's getting sold at a velocity that works for me without a buy box, I'm fine not having a buy box.
Okay.
So when I'm looking for ASINs that don't have a buy box, whether it's a buy box, it did have a buy box and it went away, or it's never had a buy box, whatever the case may be, it doesn't have a buy box. I may be looking at those because I know that a lot of other sellers are not looking for those or avoiding those ASINs. If I can find the ones of those that don't have a buy box, but are still selling very well at a high velocity, then I want those ASINs on my list.
Yes, great. And the point I was trying to make is the no buy box, the buy box itself is not a data point that we really care about. We can still determine sales velocity. Does it
Right.
meet our criteria from sales velocity? And we can still determine sales price range.
And we're often not going to be in the buy box anyway,
Right.
because in episode 554 of Jim's podcast, you can ignore the buy box.
You can't ignore the buy
and
box,
find a
yes.
lot more ASINs.
Yeah. Okay. So that is one of the two advanced strategies we were going to talk about here. And
You're a little in the weeds on that.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
but
let's maybe talk about another one here that this one's actually one of my favorites. You said the no buy box was. I think the no buy box is your favorite. My favorite is the no sales rank. Now, sales rank is a little bit trickier.
it can be.
Can be, because why? What is the sales rank
Well,
telling us?
when we didn't, compared to the no buy box, if there's no buy box, that's really, buy box is not a data point that we need to make a buying decision. Sales rank in and of itself is not either, but drops in sales rank are a key piece of our decision making, because that shows us velocity, how fast it's selling.
Okay, so we are doing some research. We come across a listing that has no sales rank. Let's say like it was it had a sales rank up until 4 months ago, and that green line that we normally see on Keepa has disappeared.
In the Keepa chart on the listing, right?
Yep, it's disappeared. Like it was going along, and then it just stops. What does that mean?
That can mean that Amazon just did not get it wasn't able to get the sales rank information from. I'm sorry, let me start over. Keepa was not able to get the sales rank information from Amazon for some reason.
Yeah, so Amazon was not tracking the rank for some reason.
Correct.
Maybe related to one of the reasons we were talking about why it doesn't have a buy box sometimes.
Correct.
Okay.
But it could also mean that that listing is new and it hasn't yet been indexed and it doesn't have a sales rank yet.
Okay.
Could be either one of those situations.
Okay. We were talking about in the first part of this section, where the sales rank just disappears. Like it has one and then it's gone. Poof.
Okay.
We don't have a good explanation for why.
No.
Okay. But we don't really care.
Reasons. Right.
Right?
We could guess.
Okay. But sales rank does give us one of the key data points that we started off talking about, which is the sales velocity. So we're missing a key piece of information. Like we can't see it, right? So how do we approach those listings where maybe it's got a buy box, but we just can't see the sales rank? Why are we interested in those kinds of listings?
Well, same reason as the no buy box. Other sellers will avoid those listings, or they won't have that data point. They won't be trying to find ones without. They'll only be trying to find ones with sales rank.
Right. A lot of people search products by the sales rank. Yeah,
as we do. Not by the sales rank, but by sales rank drops.
Yeah,
which requires a sale rank.
Right. Okay. So when we don't have that key piece of information, we need some other information to help us make a decision. What is some of that other information?
Now, remember, this is a little bit more advanced strategy. So you want to have your list built before you go too far into these. Before you start driving on the highway fast, right? But one thing you can do is look at what's happening with the other sellers and their inventory.
Okay. And we can see that as a part of Keepa?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All the more data points that are available to us in Keepa. I'm not going to explain where it is, but we can get in there and see the other offers.
Places, but yeah.
We can see other offers on the listing. We can see their inventory levels on the listing. We can see theoretically at what price point those folks have sold those items on the listing. So it's not as good as a sales rank drop in terms of explicit data.
Correct.
Right? That's one clue. Is there another clue that we can get to help us replace the sales rank drops?
I'm coming up with one. Do you have one in mind?
I couldn't remember if we talked about one before. That's usually the first place we go. Is, well, two things. Yeah. What about the offer count?
Yes.
So if the offer count is moving around as well,
People are coming in and selling out.
And some of those offers are going out of stock and coming back in stock, we can tell that there's activity going on that. That makes it potentially worth a test.
Correct.
Right? So if the sales price range works for us based on our cost and other expenses associated with that item, and we have the sales, we don't have the sales velocity. We're kind of guessing on that part, but we do have the sales price range.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's kind of like maybe driving on the 40-mile spare tire. I don't know. Maybe we're not going full speed when we're making that decision.
Right.
We're kind of slowing down.
All our decisions based on that.
Caution sign.
And
right?
again, this is more of an advanced strategy after you already have a list. So keep that in mind. So what we've done here, Brian, is we've talked about the tool that you need to get started with. Essentially, you need that tool to get started with REPLENS.
Yep.
That's really the only tool that you need. And you don't have to know everything about that tool in order to get started. You only need to know a couple of things, a couple of straightforward things to make a decision as to whether it's worth testing or not. And then we've started driving our car on the highway. So you can build on that. The reason we went into that, even though we got a little in the weeds, was you can build on those basic fundamental decision points and learn more and more about your ASINs and find more and more ASINs by looking at different data points.
Yep.
So that was the purpose of that. So now tell me, Keepa is the tool that we would start with. Where would we go from there? What tool would you buy next after Keepa?
Well, I was alluding to it a little bit in the beginning when I was saying, does Keepa tell us what all of our fees are?
Yeah.
Right. And as long as we're not going to go longhand with Keepa and figuring out all the drops and competitors and selling prices and all that, then let's not go manual with the profit calculations either.
Okay.
Okay. But we don't necessarily even need to invest in another tool to make that happen. Amazon has one that is free that you get to use with your account,
right?
Your Amazon seller account. I'm 99.99% certain it even works with a personal account as opposed to a pro account.
Yeah. Anyone can use that tool even as a guest. You don't even have to have an account.
Guests can even use the tool. Okay. And this is the Amazon FBA calculator.
Yes.
So you can Google Amazon FBA calculator. It pulls up a little worksheet for you, and you enter all of your costs in: the cost of the product, cost of how long do you want to store it, the cost of, for what it takes you to ship it into Amazon, whether you're going to sell it merchant fulfilled or FBA, and then we'll give you your profitability, potential profitability on that at whatever sales price you think you want to sell it at. But it doesn't give it to you in an ROI. It only gives it to you in margin. Okay. So
and profit. No, profit.
It gives you the dollars and cents.
Yeah.
Yes. So you can go figure your own ROI, but it doesn't calculate ROI on that page for you.
But you can definitely use that when you're getting started as your calculator for sure.
Absolutely. And it's free. So Keepa and the free Amazon FBA calculator, and you're off you go. In fact, that's the way I was taught when we first got started in this. The fancy tools, there weren't as many fancy tools as there are today, right? But even that can be a little cumbersome, right? To go in, fire up that Amazon FBA calculator, type in all these costs every time, figure out if that's going to be profitable for you. It could take you a minute, 30 seconds to a minute each time that you wanted to do that.
Which is really all I like to spend on the decision making in total, right?
So another option would be, if our next tool that we were going to invest in would be an on-page calculator. What's an example of an on-page calculator?
Well, I know I like to use AZ Insight.
Okay.
A lot of people use RevSeller, and I think that Jim Cockrum has negotiated a discount for RevSeller. A lot of people lately are using SellerAmp.
Yeah.
I think I've seen another one lately. I'm sure I'm missing some, but those are the type calculators. It lays over the sales page, the listing page. It allows you to see fees, and after you put your costs in there, it allows you to see what the fees are and what your potential profit is based on what you want to sell it for.
Yeah. For me, I think that was the second tool that we invested in.
That was before I started helping you, so you'd have to tell me.
Within the first 60 days, I'm pretty sure maybe even the first 30 days, because I was like tired of typing all that stuff into the Amazon FBA calculator. Why not just, when I click on a page, it shows up, I type in a number, so this happens in a matter of seconds, 2 or 3 seconds, as opposed to 30 seconds to a minute to go the other route. and I can figure it out right there. For me, also worth the time, because that tool is going to be $100, $150 a year as opposed to a month. So that absolutely scales very well and saves me a bunch of time.
I agree with that. And you'll notice that there is a benefit to having fewer, lighter tools, which is that if you have too many tools on page, it's going to take a while for that page to load.
Yeah. The next plugin you'll get is the one that turns them all off.
Yes.
Because it can get a little annoying when you're trying to load a page just to do your personal shopping.
Some people have Rev Seller and AZ Inside and Seller App.
Profit Detector Pro and
plus your Keepa.
Plus Keepa.
Plugin. Yeah. So then it's going to take, 10 minutes for your page to load, and that really increases your time. And so you'll go back. But if you keep those tools light, then you'll have a better experience, in my opinion. That's what I think.
Yes, I agree with that. So second tool to save us a bunch of time and effort is the on-page calculator.
Yeah.
All right. If we were to go so far as three tools.
The third tool would be not an on-page tool.
No, for us, it wasn't an on-page tool. It was what I'll call an inventory management solution. And this is
and this is just our experience. What we have used as the third tool.
Yeah, and the point here is that when we first got started, the Amazon inbound shipping workflow was not very good. And so the third tool I think I invested in was Inventory Lab. And I wished that I had made that my second tool, because I did my own shipments using the Amazon seller workflow for, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 months.
I never did have to do that in our business.
Right. And by the time Robin came along, I had upgraded to Inventory Lab, which, by the way, at the time, it was a substantial savings of time, like an easy 35, 40% cut down on the amount of time that we were spending prepping and getting our shipments out the door, because we were still using 30 up labels. We were having to. I ever did that. I'm still using 30 up labels, having to print a separate label with an expiration date on it for expirable items, and fighting with the Seller Central. It was a mess for us. Inventory Lab streamlined that a lot. Right,
but now. It's not so bad to use, from what I understand and what I've worked through with people, it's not so bad to use the shipping directly in Seller Central.
Well, you know what they say about old dog and new tricks.
Yeah. But what else does it give you? Why else would you recommend that tool?
Oh, well, Inventory Lab is maybe my favorite tool. And I've tried to become an affiliate for them for quite some time and been unsuccessful. But I've got a lot of good things to say. So I'm not telling you this because I'm making any money. Or we're making any money. The label printing piece that it does is phenomenal. It puts your FNSKU and an expiration date on the same label, so that saved me a bunch of time.
And I can scan and put my items in the box. And
and then you can use a handheld scanner to, as you're packing your boxes, just drop the item in there instead of having to go tell Amazon which items are in which box. This will help you get it there, automatically. And then it also does a phenomenal job of bookkeeping. So we love it for in the early days. Today we've got a professional accountant, but in the early days we used it for the first year and a half for all of our accounting, because it does a phenomenal job. Now it's only as good as the information you put in it.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure you enter in all your subscriptions and your supplies costs and all that kind of stuff. But it gives
you give your accountant.
Just like you give your accountant. Yeah, it gives you a phenomenal snapshot of how did I do last week? How did I do yesterday? How did I do last month? What did last year look like? And then all the way down to an ASIN level. What did I make on this particular ASIN? Now that over the course of a month, what was my ROI? During the period of time that I sold that item, just a ton of great, what I'll call advanced business analytics.
Right.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, and now there are many more tools available to us, or that maybe we just didn't know about then, that people are using to accomplish those same things.
Agreed. Yeah. So it used to be that information was kind of available through Amazon, and the Inventory Lab used it like an API to extract some information. So you would know kind of what your profitability on a per sale level was, right? I mean, you can still go in and pull a report from Amazon, it's convoluted and kind of messy, but you can do it. Inventory Lab makes it super simple, as does the other tool that we were going to bring up next,
which is
Seller Board.
Seller Board. Seller Board does those, not the packing and shipping for you, but a lot of that information about how much you made on that ASIN, how much, it also even gives you information about what's changed on that ASIN. I had somebody tell me recently that one brand that they were looking at, all the brands changed on those listings that they were, and so it gives you information, all kinds of different information that you can.
Yeah, it gives you alerts like that when a listing should change. It also has phenomenal insight into how individual ASINs are performing.
Mm-hmm.
So even going so far as to track your ad spend, if you're running like your 5-cent campaign, or even if you're doing private label, it can track all of your inventory. Your ad spend on there. So on a per sale level, on a per unit level, I should say, all the P's and Q's about that. What was my storage fee? What was my transportation fee? What was my ad spend fee? I love Seller Board for those insights that it offers there. To be fair, a lot of that is available in Amazon, but it's just not easy to get to. So Seller Board makes it super easy. Same thing with Inventory Lab. You could already do inbound shipping and all that kind of stuff with Seller Central. It just wasn't easy to do. So you end up using some third-party tools like this to make your life easier, to get some time back in your life.
Yep, I agree. So what have we found today, Brian?
We found that we can use, the only tool we really need to get going in this business with is Keepa.
Keepa.
Yeah. If we only had one tool to do this business with, it would be Keepa.
Keepa.
All right.
And a professional seller account. It doesn't have to be a professional seller account. It can be an individual seller account, but you need a seller account and Keepa to get started with the REPLENS business.
Right. And we talked about a couple of advanced strategies. Once you have the tool, Keepa, that you can use, but you don't have to.
You don't need to know everything about Keepa in order to use Keepa to get started.
Right. And then if we were forced to invest in a couple of other tools, which we have, and we weren't forced because it made our lives easier to do that. After
we had enough income to support those tools.
Right. Yeah. That was, circle back to how we started this off. We do often get new coaching clients who have this cadre of tools that has kind of put them in the hole right out of the gate. And we're here to tell you really all you need to get started is a tool like Keepa. And then you can gradually add some other tools that will make your life easier and give you some time and enjoyment back in your life as far as your Amazon REPLENS business goes.
And if I could wrap that up by saying, we went on to a couple of other tools that you could add on, but in a true REPLENS business, in that part of your strategy, that may be your only strategy, it was ours for a long time, there just really aren't a lot of tools that you need to keep that going. You can be pretty advanced with Seller Board and an on-page calculator and Keepa. You can really go
a long way.
Thousands and thousands of dollars a month
Okay.
and easily do it with that, even outsourcing.
All right, good. How are we going to wrap this up?
I thought I just did.
Oh. Well, I thought we had our going out thing that we always say.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course.
So if you ever run into problems, like we were talking about earlier, where one of your ASINs loses the buy box, the buy box on the listing goes away. You know what cures that?
More REPLENS.
More REPLENS. Yep. Go get some more tests to add to your list.
More test ASINs.
All right. And with that, I think we're good to go.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for hanging in there, guys. See you soon.
Hey, thanks for joining us for today's show. But before we go, I've got a special guest that I like to bring on once a week or so around here. He always brings tremendous value to our community. Of course, I'm talking about Mr. Jeff Schick. How are you today, my friend?
Doing well. How are you doing?
Doing great, buddy. So hit us with some great legal or policy advice from Amazon. What do you got for us today?
Well, today we're going to talk about sourcing at smaller stores, because a lot of sellers tend to stay away from small stores, and they think that if it's not, Academy Sports, that you can't shop there. And so they avoid sometimes really good deals on products because they don't know that the store is safe. And so I want to talk about, how do you shop at a small store and know that it's a safe place? So without further ado, I guess I'll jump right into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I was just telling you, I'm in Orlando, Florida right now. And so for this example, We actually used, so we're going to use Under Armour. And let's imagine that we found a store, and now there's a store that popped up nearby on Google Maps. Let's see, the name of the store is Big Diamond Sports. Looks like they sell baseball stuff, and maybe it looks like they might have like a coaching and training facility for kids that are going through to prepare for college baseball. So
let me help set the table for a second. So I'm a reseller, and I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to go out and find some good replens today. I'm going to go source some products I can sell on Amazon. And there's this little store with this little parking lot and this little specialty store. And I'm thinking, well, if I had to get an invoice from these guys or itemized receipt, and Amazon asked for this from me, are these guys legitimate enough that I'd be okay? That's the question I'm asking myself. Some people are like very cautious, thinking, oh, no, I got to stick to Target or Walmart or the big stores only. No, these little stores can be safe. And that's what you're illustrating.
Absolutely. So this is a perfect example. So I imagine, we're pulling up in the parking lot for this store, but we're saying, we look at it and we're like, do we actually trust the fact that, we're going to buy some t-shirts here and sell them on Amazon? And the answer to that depends on what we can find out about the store. Now, we're going to set ourselves 4,000 miles away in Bangalore, India. And so imagine that a seller has now submitted a receipt to you, and you're sitting in an Amazon office tower in Hyderabad, and you're looking at a receipt from Big Diamond Sports. Now, you've heard of Target, you've heard of Academy Sports, but you've never heard of Big Diamond Sports before. And you see that it's in Orlando, Florida. It's got an address. It's got a phone number. It's got itemized details. Let's say it's a perfect receipt. It's got UPCs. How is Amazon going to trust it? Well, it's actually pretty simple. They're going to take the information you gave them and verify two things. One, is this store a legitimate store? And if the answer to that is yes, then they'll verify, is that receipt real? How do they do it? Pretty easily. When it comes to, imagine we bought some Under Armour t-shirts. They're going to go to underarmour.com. At the very bottom, you'll find a button that says Store Locator. And you're going to check the box. There's brand houses, Under Armour, like outlet stores, and then there's a store authorized reseller box. I think it's called dealers. You're going to check the dealer's box, and you're going to type in that zip code from Big Diamond Sports. Now, just if anyone wants to follow the example, the zip code here is 32812. And when you type that in, it's going to pop up Big Diamond Sports. So what has Amazon's person in India just done with that Big Diamond Sports receipt? They verified that they're a legitimate store because they're an authorized dealer on Under Armour's website. So now they don't have to worry about whether this product is authentic Under Armour or not, because they know that Big Diamond is contracted with Under Armour. Now,
beautiful. Well, can I sum up what we've said so far? Just because this should, for people who followed this, what we just said, should put you at ease, because you can go in and say, okay, here's the items I'm getting ready to buy from store X. Is this a legitimate store? Well, are they authorized to sell those brands or not? You can visit the website of those brands and very quickly know, because that's what Amazon's going to do if they ask you for a verification receipt. Like, you get an IP complaint, we want to verify that these came from a legitimate source. Here's the chain of custody. Here's the receipt, itemized. The store actually exists. They're an authorized seller. And in many cases, like Under Armour has, I've got to imagine, thousands and thousands of authorized resellers, right? So as long as you're dealing from one of them, and not like Al's Bin Barn, where you bought a big box of them and no one knows where they came from, now you're playing with fire. But if you're getting an itemized receipt from one of these small retailers that exists on the manufacturer's website, you're good to go. That's the research that Amazon does when they're verifying.
Exactly. Yeah. Good. And some people would say, but wait a second, if you go to Big Diamond Sports, they have no website. I don't even know if they have any Google reviews, and they're certainly, it doesn't look like they're a traditional sporting goods store. I mean, they're not competing with Academy Sports by any means, but they are authorized by Under Armour. So if you're buying, now it doesn't mean you can go in there and buy Under Armour and then also start buying Rawlings and everything else. You still have to do your diligence, because yes, we know that they're authorized to sell Under Armour, but if they're selling Rawlings and they're not authorized to sell Rawlings, you don't want to add that to your list of purchases, right? Because they're not, now you're playing, you're in the back of that fire pit again.
Spoken like a true lawyer. For me, if they're authorized to sell a handful of name brands, I'm going to feel pretty safe shopping there in general. But, lawyers speak. Right. I get you. You got to throw that in. I hear you.
So, exactly. But yeah, I mean, they're probably not doing anything shady, because to get an Under Armour contract is decently difficult. So yeah. So just the whole idea is that you can, when you're shopping at small stores, I gave the example here in Orlando, but obviously not everyone lives in Orlando. There's gonna, there's, if you type in your zip code and you find stores around you, you might be surprised to find all sorts of stores that show up on different websites. So you might go to, Yeti.com, you might go to Under Armour, you might go to, Yankee Candle. I mean, you name it, you can look and find these sources for different replens that are, smaller stores that probably would want your business, and they might even be able to offer, bulk discounts and other, quantity discounts as well for you. So
yeah, it's a great way to do research and find some small businesses that you can go source from actually as well. Yeah, great point, man. That's really good stuff. I appreciate the tip today. This is something that I love that, because part of having you in our community and contributing, Jeff, is you see what's happening in the real world out there when people are hitting snags, sellers are hitting troubles. And so you bring us what's kind of floating to the top in your world in these little snippets. So very valuable. Appreciate your tips today, buddy. Thank you.
Absolutely. You're
We'll
welcome.
do it again real soon. Okay.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Jeff. And for those who don't know, jeffschick.com, just like the razor, SCHICK. He's got a great monthly program that you can get him on retainer. And we're even working on some good discounts for this community. So staying tuned for that. You'll be hearing more about that very soon. So we'll have you back again, Jeff. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend.